Hi, my name's Sacha. I'm going to be doing a little video about needle felting. I'm going to show you on this video how to make a Yorkshire rose. Okay, so you'll probably have to excuse my setup here for the video. The phone is being currently held up by a packet of herbal tea and a glue stick. So hopefully you can see it all right. This is a bit of wool that I've picked up from one of the walks that I've done locally. You know, you pass it and you see it hooked into barbed wire or just blowing along the ground. You can obviously just pick that up, but if you know someone who has any sheep, obviously when they shear them, they might have some spare. In which case you can obviously ask them, buy them, beg, steal, borrow, whatever. Obviously when it comes off the animal, it's very oily. The lanolin is still on there. It will be dirty. You need to wash it and then brush it. And you can buy these felt combs that help smooth things out and get the fibres feeling a bit more soft. Alternatively, there are plenty of places where you can buy wool that's already been brushed and is nice and soft and ready to use for whatever design you would like to make. So as I said, in this one we're going to look at the Yorkshire rose, and you can see here that I've made little leaves to go on the back, and I've put just a little hint of colour, little bits of pink running through the petals. Now, just like the actual flowers themselves, you need to start by making the individual petals, which obviously, depending on the size of your brooch, your flower that you would like to make in the end, can take varying amounts of time. So I wouldn't like to say exactly how long you'll be spending on it. But if you're just starting out, then it's better just to take your time and get used to this. This is the actual needle that I'm going to be using. You can buy ones that are encased, and there are several joined together, and you just press it and it stabs it down. I just quite like using these ones. However, as you can see, there's no guard on it, and you have to be prepared for once or twice stabbing yourself. Once you get used to it, it's fine, no problem at all. But just to warn you, that can happen. So when you're starting, you would get your wool and tear off a section. I'm going to initially tear off this much, halve it, and if you kind of twist it into a petal shape, you'll see how much you're going to need. So you've got your petal there. Now, don't just get the size that you think you're going to need, because when you have used the needle on it, you are going to end up with a petal that is at least half the size of the current amount that you've got in your hand. The whole point of the needle is that when you stab it, and I have a base which is a piece of needle felt foam, it's just like any foam that you can get from a craft centre. The needle is going to join the fibres together and kind of fuse them so that you get a more solid and workable piece of wool to use. So if I move that slightly, so you get your needle and then you can just start stabbing away. So if you just look at this, stabbing it, and as you go through, you'll notice that the felt is being pushed into the foam. This obviously helps all the fibres knit together. And then you should be able to see your petal shape starting to take shape. Obviously, I'm not using the bottom bit. You will need to do this quite a lot and turn it over so that the bits that do go into the foam don't end up with like an imprint of the foam on it. So you want to have a nice smooth, for this design anyway, a nice smooth finish on your petal. And so I'm going through very carefully, stabbing, trying not to hit my fingers or my nail. Obviously, if you're doing this with younger people, you might want to obviously buy the one that's in the guard, so you don't have to worry about their little fingers. So my fluffy wool that I've been using, after standing for a little while, you should be able to see that it's got a lot smaller and it's a lot denser. You can feel the difference. Obviously this bit at the end you can see is left as it was and is still all fluffy. This bit, however, you can see that it's more rigid than before. You might think that that was enough, but no, we're going to carry on doing it. I found that you kind of just know when to stop. You don't obviously want it too small or too hard. And we'll probably end up making, I'd say for this one, maybe 12 petals. 12 up to 15 maybe, just depending on how it looks when we put it all together. Now at the moment I'm not going to introduce another colour. Obviously on the one I made earlier in good Blue Peter fashion, I had the pink running through it just to give it a little extra bit of interest. All of the colour bits that you put in, that can be done towards the end when you are assembling your flower. So we're going to carry on. And one thing that I have found is when you are doing these petals or any bit of needle felting and you get your fluffy bit left at the end, with petals, with doing flowers in particular, you can turn it round and actually make a double petal. So what I'm going to do now is, because there's a fair amount left at the bottom from where I was showing you how it still remained fluffy and the other bit became more dense, I'm just going to twist it round, make it like rabbit ears, and I'm just going to concentrate on that bit now, making a little tiny petal which is attached to the other one, which will help us when we assemble all the flowers, all the petals together to form the flower. And this will be the middle of our rose. Okay, so this one, I don't know how well you can see it on there, but this one I've made a little bobble there, a little tiny petal, which when we put the bigger one round it, you can see forms a nice little centre of the flower. So I'm going to put that one aside and I'm going to carry on making some more. Obviously, as you are going to assemble the flower, you need to have petals of varying size. Sometimes people like having a little template to use so that they can hold the petals over it and see whether it fits into the kind of design that they would like to use. However, I prefer to do things by just seeing how they go. I mean, that's what you find in nature, is that everything's individual, and obviously no two things that you make like this will be identical, which I think is also part of the joy of it. These make really good gifts, and obviously it's a lot of thought, love, time has been put into making them, and you can obviously make other designs, some of which I'll show you in a bit. It doesn't have to be flowers. I just happen to love doing flowers. Over the past year or so, I've done a lot of roses. I've done some arum lilies, some crocuses, crocus, pansies, and different types of fruits. I've done flamingos. Sunflower was a nice one to do. That was nice and cheery. So as you can see from this one, I'm starting to concentrate on actually doing a lot in the middle of this petal. And as you can see, it starts giving it a little bit of shape, a bit like those prawn cocktail crisps that you can get, skips. If you do that, it gives it that nice little curl round, so that when you do put all the petals together, they've got a nice little formation and it cups round, and obviously with all of them together they fit in quite nicely. So this is just a rough one. I don't want to jinx myself by saying that I haven't yet pierced my finger, but it's always a bonus. So as you can see, I'm just going to show you very briefly on this one. If you were to put them in, you can see how concentrating on the middle just kind of lets the other petal just sit and nestle inside it, which is going to look lovely when we put them all together. So I'll make some more and then I'll show you how to assemble them all. Right, so I'm back again now, and I've made about 12, possibly 13 petals. So they currently are all white, and I'm now just going to add just a little bit of red, just to give it that kind of something extra, something to stand out. I chose red just purely because it's winter time, and I thought the berries and the contrast with the whites is quite lovely. So I've literally just got a little bit of wool here, a little bit of felt, and I'm just going to pull some of the strands out. And you really do just want it as wispy as that. Then you can just lay it onto the petal and gently just poke it into the petal that you've got there at the moment. And if you don't like it, you're doing it quite lightly, so you can, if you didn't like that, for example, you can just tease it out, and it does give some of the petals just that little bit more definition. And especially if, I don't know, people follow a football team, or, you know, they have a favourite colour that you can incorporate, or they wear a specific colour if it's for a specific outfit. But just remember that you don't need to stick to flowers. There's so many other things that you can make. Loads of Christmas decorations. I've made some panda bears, some fairies, little goblin-y type things, all sorts. And you can buy various different kits and things like that if you want just a bit of a push in the right direction. The kits are really good, and within them you get all the things that you would need, from the base to the needles and the wool itself. So I've put on enough red at the moment. I can always add more as I go along, but now we're going to assemble our flower, our rose. So currently we've got that little one that I showed you I made at the beginning with a little extra bubble at the bottom. So I've squashed them together, and just to bring the two halves together, if you just poke them and stab them a little bit more, then you get more definition. So with the variety of different petals that we've got here, you'd usually build up from the smallest round to the biggest at on the outside is what you really want to have. So if you do it just by picking the odd one or two and just put them together and see what it looks like. As you can see here, if we put it slightly, remember sometimes in petals they will overlap, and so that works quite nicely size wise. So we've got those together, and then what I like to do is just to combine those petals together that we've got. It just makes it easier, and by poking them a little bit more, you are ensuring that in terms of the petals, the two become fused into one. And obviously as we go along, we're going to have a mass of all of them together. So remember, you can tease out the pattern, tease out the shape. If you've got the red bits there, you can still move your touch of colour around. Pick one of the next size up, and again I'm going to slightly overlap it and bring it round so it kind of forms around the two previous ones. And again, I'm just going to fuse these ones together. And this is the same sort of principle as when we had the wall in the first place, and we were using the needle to bring the fibres together so it makes it one piece rather than all individual fibres. Okay, so our flower is taking shape there. I'm going to add some more, and again slightly overlapping the previous one, and use the needle, remembering not to stab yourself. As you can see here, I've got my nails as if I was chopping an onion or something like that, so they are vertical, rather than everything being sort of laid down, and then you're more susceptible to getting stabbed by your needle. Okay, so this is going to be, I think, more of a closed one, but we will see as we go along. Some nice big double petal there to wrap round. And I'll finish this one off and then come back when it's all complete. So I've now assembled all the petals of the rose so far. I might actually later just put an extra one or two in. Because it's soft, because it's natural, you can just tweak it and shape your design until you are happy with it. Now usually I back them with some leaves that I've made. Today I just decided I was going to do an ivy type leaf, and as you can see I've used dark green and then done some light green veining on it in exactly the same way as I did the red tinge on the petals. And then you would attach the leaf to whatever part of the rose you want. Now what I tend to do is move the leaf around and just see where I think it sits nicely. So I'm going to go for there. I'm going to do exactly the same thing again, and I'm going to affix the leaf in exactly the way that we have done with all the petals. And indeed we formed the petals, and it doesn't take a lot, just a few stabs like that. If at any time you are doing these and adding some extra colour maybe to one part and you don't want it on another part, sometimes when you stab the felt, the wool, it can come through, because obviously the needle can poke right the way through. So if it does, well, first of all, be careful that it doesn't, but if it does, you can just poke it back in from the other side. So if you are at home and homeschooling, why not set a project? It doesn't have to be flowers. It could be, you know, get boys involved as well, and they could be making something, whether it's their favourite animal. They could make it into a badge, or they could make a 3D one. So this is our finished rose. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to attach one of these brooch clips just on the back. I'll just sew it on there, and then this is ready to wear. You can then wear it on as a brooch on clothing. You can also make them for attachments for handbags, key rings, all that sort of thing. I just thought I'd show you some of the other ones that I've done over time. So there's another rose there. Obviously you've seen the other Yorkshire rose there. It's a little strawberry brooch. And here I've done the seeds by actually sewing some thread into it. And that's another good way that you can get the definition on leaves, the veining on the leaves. Similarly, where I did this crocus, I did a whole set of these different sizes, and some of them are presents and some of them have sold in my shop. Again, for the stamen there, in the middle of the flower, I've used thread that I've wound round and round and round, sewn it through, and then done a little knot, so it looks as though there's lots of little bits, but they won't all fall out. It's a nice little pansy one there, and showing you one of the animal ones. There's a flamingo there, and these ones have all got the brooches on the back. But as I said, you don't need to. I made this little magnet, a little wool sheep, and then you can just stick a magnet on the back, and then you've got a nice little personalised fridge magnet or whatever. Literally, the ideas are limitless. It's just your imagination and your own creativity. But thank you for watching, and good luck with your own things.